Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the podcast, The Pocket Stylist. I'm Lisa Talbot and today I'm very thrilled because I'm joined by two guests and we're going to cover some great topics. So first of all, I would love to introduce you to Alison Cork, who is an entrepreneur and wonderful small business champion and also a broadcaster. And we've also joining us is Nicola Gleave of Worn by Us, who has been on my podcast before. So we're going to talk about recycling. We're going to talk about sustainability today. We're going to talk about paying it forward. But first of all, let's say hello to you, Alison. Alison, hello. How are you?
I'm really well, and thanks very much for having me on the podcast. These are subjects really close to my heart, so I can't wait to get chatting. And lovely to see you again, Nicola.
Nice to see you too, Alison.
Nice to see you, Nicola. So I think what we're going to do, let's start with where we had a conversation about Alison the other day. And I know you're a very, very busy lady, but I also know that you've been on a bit of a weight loss journey, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. So it was partly triggered by COVID. You know, we all had time to reflect. We were all sitting at home and many of us actually gaining a bit of weight whilst we were sitting at home. And also it was an age thing. I'm 58. I was 57 at the time. I had this conversation with myself last year. And I just thought, you know, I'm not really happy with the way that I look and feel. Being a broadcaster, I have learned some tricks of the trade along the way. So, you know, we know how to do our hair and makeup and wear clothes on camera to disguise certain, you know, figure faults. But deep down, that aside, you know how you honestly feel about yourself. And I wasn't particularly happy. And I also have a lot of friends who are about my age. And there is this sort of syndrome, I think, where women in their 50s, and it's partly to do with the menopause and other events of life, sort of lead these lives of what I would describe as sort of quiet desperation, just thinking, is it all over? Is it all downhill? Am I never going to be considered attractive again? Shall I just sort of shut up shop and accept that I had the best bit of my life and now I just need to be sort of quiet and sit in the corner? And I thought about all these things and just decided that simply wasn't good enough. You know, I love life. I'm very curious. I want to get out there. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to draw a line in the sand and I'm going to make a massive effort to improve my health and my fitness. And that will include losing weight. It's not defined by losing weight, but it will include that as part of the process.
So what do you feel that you had to almost adapt your thinking? And obviously we're going to talk about clothing, aren't we, as well? But do you think that you had to obviously adapt your thinking during your journey? And did it change your thoughts about your wardrobe and the clothes that you've got in it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any journey that is about health and fitness and weight loss, it requires a sort of light bulb moment where you just make that decision to change. And at that point, you do change your thinking because you have to change the way that you approach food, the way that you approach exercise. For me, it was a matter of creating new habits. And often it is about breaking bad old habits and creating new habits. So my whole thinking around health and fitness did change. And really what happened was that I made it a non-negotiable part of my life. And also, I think if I needed to sort of condense down what I did differently, I became much more mindful about what I was eating and how I was exercising. So those were the changes in my thinking. And the changes in my appearance, which, you know, it's lovely when people say you've lost lots of weight, you look great. They were really dramatic because I lost about a third of my body weight. I lost 4 stone in weight.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so it's really dramatic to the point where people would walk past me in the street and then sort of call back and say, Ali, is that you? Oh. It's like, you know, they just didn't know who I was. But actually, the important thing is, of course, it's how you look. It's nice to be told you look nice, but it's how it made me feel. And I just felt so much more positive, so much more energetic about life, that, you know, my curiosity could know no bounds because I felt there was suddenly nothing I couldn't do. So as a byproduct, I decided I was going to climb Mount Everest this year. So I've signed up to climb Everest in October because, like, I can, because now I can.
Goodness.
So to answer your question though on clothes, the minute that you change dramatically in shape, and it was a really dramatic change, I didn't have to, but I completely rethought the way that I approached my clothes and my visual appearance. I could become more bold, more creative, have more fun with clothes, go shopping with more confidence, because I knew there were very few things in that shop that wouldn't fit me. And just it opened up a whole new world. I mean, in essence, what I did was completely life-changing.
Yeah, you used that little 4-letter word though that has such a massive impact, and I don't think people do. You use the word feel, and it's so interesting. I can't tell you as a stylist how many people say my clothes don't make me feel good. I would love my clothes to make me feel happy. And you know what? I've always said it. Clothes will either make you feel incredibly great, or they can make you feel pretty rubbish, because what happens is if you catch yourself in the shop window or the mirror and you think, yeah, you know what, I look good. The shoulders go back, the stature, lifts a little bit, you grow a couple of inches. But we all know if there's something that we put on in the mornings, and again, we see ourselves in the tube window or something like that. If we kind of go, oh, I'm not really sure about that, the mood changes. And we do it to ourselves, isn't it? It's a little bit like a self-sabotage. We go, oh, that doesn't look good. So therefore the shoulders go down. We walk into the office or we go to the supermarket, not feeling as good. And where we're not saying right now that, do you know what, if you have put on a little bit of weight because of the menopause or because of lockdown or whatever, we're not saying to everybody, right, do you know what, to feel good, you need to go out and lose weight. What we're saying is you have to feel good in your clothing, whether you buy from Primark or Prada, whether you're a size 6 or a size 26. It's about how you feel. But for your journey's point of view, what I'm really intrigued at, actually, the period of time that you went on this journey, this weight loss journey, did you buy or did you look at clothes intermittently, or did you go, right, I'm not going to do anything till the end, and did you make do with what you've got? Because I think that's a really interesting topic, because some ladies go, no, I'm not going to buy anything new till the end, whereas others say, well, I'm going to have to, because I can't physically fit any more into the bits. I'm just intrigued which kind of camp you sat in.
Well, I wanted to be, first of all, I didn't want to waste money, and we'll talk about recycling and how to get the most use out of our clothes.
That's why we bring Nicola in, don't we?
Exactly. So I didn't want to waste money, so I wasn't going to go on sort of multiple shopping trips every time I hit another pound weight loss. And also, because I was focusing so intently on weight training in the gym, I was really focusing on gym gear. So I did buy a little bit of gym gear, and there was sort of, 3-4 monthly stages where I thought, right, okay, I've got the confidence now to show a bit of midriff, the confidence to show a bit of shoulder. When I first went into the gym and just saw all these fit people, I was completely terrified, and I was covering my body with long sleeve t-shirts and just hoping nobody would notice me. So really I defined my journey through my gym gear, because it was a practical thing to do, and B, I didn't want to waste money.
Yeah.
And I almost entirely ignored my wardrobe, because I just wanted to, as I say, draw a line in the sand. And when I got to my goal place in terms of strength and fitness and weight loss, I wanted to just then review my wardrobe completely afresh, because I knew there'd be a bit of a cull. I mean, there were lots, going back to the points you were making, Lisa, I used to dress to hide things I didn't like. I mean, we often do that anyway, but that was my primary motivation for choosing an item of clothing. It was, what can I disguise, not what can I celebrate?
Yes.
Whereas now I will go shopping, and for the first time ever in my life, and that includes being a teenager, and I'm now 58, I will very purposefully buy tops with no sleeves, because I like my shoulders and I like the tops of my arms, and it feels amazing, but I don't have much of that in my wardrobe. So I am having to buy a number of new things, but I'm also being, I think, quite creative with my old clothes that don't fit or aren't sort of suitable anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's where we'll move into when we bring Nicola in, because what we're talking about, that isn't it? Do you think, do you know what's a real, for me, obviously we're talking about a journey you've been on. Do you think your style has changed from before and after? And you know, we talk about the feel word, you know, about how when you open up your wardrobe and you get excited, do you feel now that your wardrobe almost used to look like one area, and now you've really almost changed what you wear? So your style, so maybe where you were very classic kind of Audrey Hepburn, have you gone a little bit like let me think, a bit like, you know, Vivienne Westwood, with a little bit dramatic, with a little bit of excitement in your wardrobe?
I would say, in essence, that my wardrobe is far more joyful. It's far more colourful, it's more fun, it's more flirty. It sort of celebrates me and my love of life, whereas before I was almost masking things. And now it's, you know, now I will wear a gold tasseled dress if I feel like it, because I can, and it's fun. And in fact, funnily enough, that is a specific dress which I bought recently from a high street store, and wore it and had a post on Instagram. And so one of my friends posted a comment and said, "Sorry, Ali, when did you turn 21? It was very funny. But I mean, I hope I'm not dressing inappropriately, because I think that, you know, elegance is the way to go always, especially when you are a certain age. I don't think I dress inappropriately, but I dress with more joy and fun and zest.
Yeah, but you know, Alison, what you hinted on there with regards to age, people will have heard me say so many times, style doesn't have an age limit. It doesn't get to like when we're 20, we have to dress one way, 30, we dress another way. Yes, we all twist the trends accordingly to suit our own personality and potentially our age in some ways, but it doesn't, from my perspective, I don't think once you get to a certain age, you should then rock up with your joggers and your fleeces, because that's what, in inverted commas, you should be doing. Because, you know, we've all gone through what we've gone through for the past couple of years, and I think it's proved to everybody how precious life is, and actually how, very much like what you're talking about, you grab it with both hands and you do what makes you feel good, which I think is very different. Do you think as well, obviously where you used to shop, so the retailers, whether it was online or high street, do you feel since you've lost the weight that you've almost had to have a shift in your mindset of, actually, I can go into that store, rather than maybe where you used to avoid it? Do you feel now, because I'm always saying to people, just go in and have a look. Wherever you are, go in and have a look. There'll always be something for you. So do you feel, since you've gone on that journey now, that, my goodness, now the world has opened up to me from what, you know, the retailers I can use, and do you find it easier?
Oh yeah, I used to shop with a sort of vague feeling of dread, which is, if I come back with one thing I like, that'll be a good day. And now I just go out and I go into any shop, because, as I say, there's a fighting chance that thing will fit me. Actually, the best example of that was, now Mango is, you know, it's a fun shop. They've got some really sort of fun clothes, but in my mind, they were always tiny, as in the clothes were tiny and just wouldn't go anywhere near my frame. There was no point. I was walking past a Mango not so long ago, and I saw this incredibly funky pair of 70s psychedelic, burnt orange and gold and dark brown trousers, all sort of swirls and swishes and what have you, flared, you know, just long tapered and flared. And I thought, oh God, I love those. So I went in and I was sort of hovering around them as if I was frightened of them. And the assistant said, go and try them on. And I said, oh, they're not going to fit me. She said, go and try them on. Of course they will. So I tried them on, and they fitted like a glove, and it was like a really small size. And to cut a long story short, I wore them with a little sleeveless tank top and a big tortoise shell belt that sort of echoed the swirls of the fabric and the colors. Wore it on QVC on a show that I was doing, that was presenting. I can't tell you how much feedback I got. People just said, that is like the perfect outfit for you. You look unbelievable in this outfit. And it was just such a, Oh, I can't tell you. It was like escaping from a prison. All of a sudden, this wonderful, colourful, joyful world was mine. You know, I could do whatever. It was like a big playground.
Yeah, because what you alluded to, I didn't mention at the beginning because you do present on QVC as well. And you know what was really interesting, when you bought those trousers and you wore them and you loved them, I bet when you actually presented that showing them, the confidence level was probably sky high, because you'd caught, again, we go back to what we said, you caught yourself in the mirror, or you caught yourself on the way through to the studio, and you're like, yeah, I love this. And you know what? I think when we wear what makes us feel good, there's your smile. That's the confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And you know what? Because we feel good. It's kind of second nature.
Absolutely. I actually had directors of the programme stopping me in the corridors of QVC saying, Alison, obviously we can see you've lost weight, but actually that's not what I want to say. What I want to say is you are so different on camera. They said you shine.
Oh,
and
wow.
you are just a different person. You're happy. I mean, not that I was unhappy before, but there's just an energy that I was exuding that they could see. And as the director watches their people very closely, so that's their job. And they commented, and I thought, wow, that it must be so obvious, so different for them to stop me in the corridor and comment on this.
That's so interesting, isn't it? Because it goes back to that feel word. But I would love to bring Nicola in now, because I think what the next question for me, right, would be and we're going to talk about another one of your passions, which is sustainability and recycling and all that type of thing, which is why we've obviously have Nicola here as well, because of her expertise. So the question for you, from me, is you would have had this wardrobe full of wonderful clothes, but they didn't fit you anymore because of the journey you'd gone on. So my question to you would be, what did you then decide to do with them? Because that's where I think a lot of ladies get to, whether they've been through a weight loss journey, or whether they are looking to have a bit of a revamp. You know, some ladies who go through a divorce, or they've gone through an illness or something like that. They then go, right, well, I don't like this wardrobe anymore. What am I going to do with it? So would you love to share with us what you then looked at your wardrobe and how you approach things? And then Nicola, we can come in with yourself to give us a little bit of information more about Worn by Us and how the two just marry beautifully.
Yeah, well, they certainly do, because I've worked with Nicola and it's been a joy. But so to answer your question, first of all, I sort of looked at the overall, rails and what I had hanging up there and thought, okay, there are some of these items which are just now way too big and cannot be altered cost effectively to fit me by a dressmaker. So I will either give them away or I will sell them. And that's where I've been interacting with Nicola on how we dispose of them in a sort of sensible way. Then there were clothes which I absolutely adored but had grown too large for, which now just fitted me. So there was a very, very small number of clothes I could just take off the rack and wear and just think, that was a wonderful dress I spent quite a lot of money on once upon a time from Diane von Furstenberg, and they're very classic dresses, and it's this beautiful salmony pink, and I'd never been able to get the zip done up, and it just slid up, and I wore it on camera, and again everyone said, oh my god, that dress looks fantastic on you. It's such a joy. And so then there were old clothes that I've had for many, many years. Like there's I'm going to show you a few things later, a dress and a jacket that I've had since I was in my early 20s, so that's 30 years plus, and they now fit again, because it's many years later, and I'm probably even slightly slimmer than I was when I was in my early 20s, so they fit, which is amazing. I mean, it may possibly be illegal for me to wear the Bruce Oldfield dress I wore at 23. Do I care? Not much. I'll show it to you. You can tell me. And I hope Bruce Oldfield sees this. And then there are things which I inherited from my grandmother, vintage things, and I would always keep those because those are heirlooms.
Yeah.
So I would never dispose of those, and I will hand those down. And then I've got my sort of high street buys. And some of those I just thought, that they were very inexpensive. They don't really reflect who I am anymore. Maybe the colours are a bit dull because I was always dressing so conservatively. Maybe the shape is wrong for me now because I'm wearing a lot more sleeveless stuff and a lot more fitted stuff. I'll just let those go, or give them maybe to a jumble sale, or because they were very inexpensive. probably not suitable for resale, I will give those on because they're still perfectly okay clothes. And then, and then that left a few gaps, and that's where I've subsequently gone out shopping and thought, right, now I can buy in the style of the new Alison, and start very gradually to replace and replenish. And also one other thing I have done with my girlfriends, which we love doing, we do swishing, which for those who don't know is where you each bring at least one item of clothing, hang it up on a rail, have a glass of wine, have a social evening, and choose something else from the rail other than what you brought in yourself, and swap clothes. And that's great fun.
And that's great fun as well, isn't it? But I think, Nicola, let's come to you, because what your whole business concept is, it's about reselling, it's about recycling, it's about sustainability, it's about paying it forward. Tell everybody a little bit about your business, and then if you can, how you worked with Alison, because I think, we all love to make a little bit of money, don't we? We absolutely do. So I always say to people, you have got dead money sitting in your wardrobe. So there is a process. Not only can you pay it forward, it helps you financially go on, like Alison, you went and purchased a few bits with the gaps that you were missing, but also it means that somebody else can enjoy your garment. Someone else can really get the whole feeling from it. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Nicola, tell us a little bit about your business.
Thanks, Lisa. So my business is Worn by Us, and we're a fashion resale business. And I think interesting, the conversation so far. I think what I found throughout my journey is people have different reasons for no longer wanting an item of clothing. Just because you make that decision yourself, it doesn't mean that it's not appealing or it's not a viable thing for somebody else. So there's a variety of reasons why we make those choices, and I think having solutions to be able to resell it, pay it forward in a way that kind of makes you feel comfortable with that process and knowing what's happening to that item. Because I think, as Alison's described, that there are memories and there are emotions and there are a whole host of other things that create an attachment to our wardrobes, isn't there? And I think it's not just a cold-hearted, well, there you go, we no longer want that anymore, so whatever happens to it, I don't care. I don't think that's the case for most of us. And so, I created Worn by Us initially. The initial concept, I'd had breast cancer and I wanted to raise money for charity. So we asked a few kind of celebrities, high profile people, to donate some items from their wardrobes that, maybe they'd been seen in public wearing and were thinking, oh, well, I've been seen on Instagram or whatever, so I might, not wear that again, or not in the near future. And so we started raising some money for charity through that. But again, just through the network, and obviously Alison and I initially met through your business network. Alison, I was a guest speaker at the launch event of the network up north.
Yeah.
I think through my network as well, of just knowing lots of women out there in particular who want to find a solution for their items in their wardrobes that for different reasons they don't want. And it doesn't have to be just, well, you must give them, for charity or whatever, because I think, we can all, there's value in those items and we can earn some money back and it can be invested in other things. And I think actually COVID was a big eye-opener and a game changer in that approach and perception, because obviously, lots of people's incomes were affected and jobs and different things, and to be able to get something back that then you can invest in a new item, a new piece, or use the the revenue that you get back in different ways is a great thing, and I think it justifies then the whole process of letting go as well, for some people in your mind. So we work with Alison. Obviously Alison and I have known each other, and Alison, I've seen your weight loss journey across social media and things, and I saw that dress you mentioned, the fringe dress. Honestly, no, I have to say, it just, it's so empowering that you're sharing this journey and message, because I love to see women who, when I say look good, I think who that they feel good. You can tell when somebody feels good. And it makes me feel good to see that in somebody else, because you think, wow, that's amazing. Don't they look fantastic? You can tell they feel fantastic. And I think it motivates you yourself to think, I feel that good as well. So, and it really does. And so Alison and I have worked together. Alison, has shared some of her items with us, which we're reselling at the moment. And I think you said, Alison, didn't you? It's about doing it in phases for you that feels comfortable for you. It's not a case of, here you go, I'm going to kind of just shift everything out and, rebuy a whole new wardrobe. It's about doing it in stages that you feel good, that you feel that you can let these items go. And
it's very emotional. It's a very emotional process. And that's one of the reasons I couldn't do it all in one go. I'd probably just collapse in a puddle on the floor of tears,
Because what's really interesting, exactly like you've both said, clothes hold a real emotion. You said something, Alison, earlier about, something that your grandma had, that you're going to keep it because it's an heirloom. And then you think about, we do have an attachment. Seriously, in the wardrobe consultations that I do, I work with clients, and it's very much like, we can let go of certain pieces, but if there's certain pieces you can't. I remember working with a client who sadly had lost her husband, and there was a couple of pieces in her wardrobe that she would never wear again, but because he bought them, they had a sentimental attachment. And I was like, no, that's fine. They don't need to be in your wardrobe. We can vacuum pack them up. We can put them somewhere different because they're impacting kind of the wardrobe you've got, but actually we don't need to lose them. I told Alison a story the other day, Nicola, when, and I lost my mum in January, and I have to obviously go in and have a look through her wardrobe and things like that. There is the most stunning pre-1990s Burberry's trench coat. Wow. And you know what? I looked at it and thought, I remember her in this. And it's only a size 6. So I'm like, great, this is going to fit me. But it's come home with me. And, yes, I could probably sell it because it's vintage and it's worth a lot of money. But there's not a chance that's going anywhere. And actually right now it's hanging on my wardrobe. But it's got sentimentality. And I think picking up on what you've all said, I think, Nicola, you were 100% right. I think the past couple of years and the pandemic were a catalyst for so much. Especially for women. Women looked at either themselves, or they looked at their lives, and they looked at their businesses, or they looked at where they worked, and they kind of went, do you know what? It's time for me. And me could have been going on a weight loss journey or launching a business and things like that. And I think clothing played a massive part because I've heard the story from so many women who are saying, I lived in an elasticated waistband, Lisa, for nearly 2 years. But now, what do I do? So it's really interesting. But I think, again, Nicola, where you come into this, I think women have gone back into their wardrobes and gone, I'm never going to wear that. I never liked that in the first place. I don't want that. So now I can take it out of my wardrobe and I can earn myself a little bit of money. Because I can walk it forward. And I know one of my clients, she worked with you too. So it's, again, because her lifestyle had changed. So whereas we do have an attachment, I fully understand what Alison was saying then as well, that she's had to do it in little stages. Because you've got to do what's right for you, what makes you feel comfortable. Go back to the feel word. It goes back to that feel word. But Alison, I'm intrigued because there must be pieces you kept that hold a little bit of a memory or a sentimentality. And I know for people that are listening on audio, you might have to take a trip over to my YouTube channel because Alison's has got a rail of clothing to the right-hand side of her. And she's going to share a few of the pieces, aren't you, that you kept that had the sentimentality, which then keeps that whole kind of sustainability, and we're reusing and repurposing and rewearing that might go back a good few years.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got a selection of pieces that I think illustrate all the permutations of why we keep clothes and why we should keep some clothes. And I'm just going to share them with you. So I hope you can see me if I stand up.
No, if you stand, that's
Yes.
it. Oh, that's it. Perfect. So,
Got it.
so for the
Right.
listeners, Alison's just moved her screen so that we
Yes.
can see a little bit more. So come on, share away.
Okay, right. I'm going to whiz through these. So this is a monsoon deep blue velvet, I suppose you'd call it a sort of cavalier jacket. You can see the length of it and the flared. And I've had that since I was about 22, and I'm 58 now. And I've never, ever let it go, because for me it's timeless. And so the point I want to make here is that some items are elegant and they're classic, and there's absolutely no need to let these go. And I don't think I'll ever get rid of this. It's a little bit big now, but I'll just take it in, and that can be done.
Yeah.
Then there is the, this has to be worn, and I'm not going to take my clothes off right now, but this is the Bruce Oldfield. You can see the length of it. It's a long, sort of salmon jersey dress. It's extraordinarily sexy. That's why I'm saying it may have to come with a health warning. But the thing is that, again, I bought this in my early 20s. It fits. It still fits. Now I've lost the weight. And let's be perfectly honest, my boobs aren't quite where they used to be when I was 22, but I've discovered tape. Who knew? Who knew? So I just taped them up and put this on. I thought, yeah, this works.
Do you know what's really interesting though, Alison? You know, you said just about a couple of minutes ago, you said how you have to let go of things gradually. You've held on to these items as well, haven't you? Because they hold something, like you said, traditional, timeless, etc.
They're classic pieces. I mean, Bruce Oldfield, you know, I remember buying this in a sale, and it was a massive investment at the time for me, even in the sale. But here it is 30 odd years later, 34 years later. So that's paid its way for sure. This is just an example of, you know, have fun. This is my tassel mini dress. This is Zara. This was very inexpensive. When I wear it, people think it must be Balenciaga or something. It's not. And it's just tremendous fun. And it's backless. At 58, for the first time in my life, I wore a backless dress. How crazy is that? So that's that one, which just gives me enormous joy, because it's allowing me to show off bits of me that I never had the confidence to show off before.
This is also a real example of how your wardrobe is very eclectic from a brand point of view, because you've got Monsoon, you've got Bruce Oldfield, you've dipped a bit of Zara in, and this is where ladies can have this wonderful eclectic wardrobe that mixes and matches from branded to high street to designer, etc.
I'm a vertical shopper, both in interiors, which is my business, and in fashion. I'm brand agnostic. If I like it, I'll have it. It doesn't if it's very expensive, I probably won't, but you know. So this is one of my all-time favorite dresses. It's a kimono dress. It's from ASOS. It was about 25 quid. Every time I wear this, people say it's just divine. And I've actually had this embroidery mended because it tended to unravel, and I'm going to have it taken in a little bit. But a great example of a piece I just can't let go of, because I love it and the color makes me happy.
There you go.
That's staying. Now we get on to talking about brand agnostic. This is a sort of vintage style tea dress, except it's not vintage, and it's Primark. And I love this dress. It's got a lovely flare. It's got a variegated hem which sort of dips and rises. I love wearing this dress. It's just great fun, and it makes me feel like a 1940s girl. You know, I feel like I should be wearing a little hat, a little pillbox hat.
That would be a beautiful little dress for like a day at the races. Or something.
Absolutely.
You know, something like that with a little heel and a little clutch bag, and you're done.
100%. And this is just a basic sleeveless top, but the reason I pulled this out is because when I'm shopping, you know, I am brand agnostic, and I discovered these in Primark, and they happen to really fit and now flatter my figure, which is quite narrow under the bust, and obviously my arms are a lot more toned. And these are, I can't remember, maybe £3 or £4 each, and so I've invested in half a dozen of them, because they form the sort of they underpin so many of my outfits now, but allow me to be sort of body free. I feel so comfortable in these, and they're so affordable. So, you know, I would say to people, don't be snobby about where you're shopping. Go into all shops, explore, see what they've got, because there are little gems hidden in many different places. Now,
Yeah,
when I
and
wore,
with sorry to interrupt you,
no,
with
please.
Primark at the moment, they are really trying to focus a little bit more on the sustainability. So they're using
Yes,
they're trying. They've got a whole collection which is plastic free, and they
correct.
feel so soft. So if you're a
Oh,
touchy-feely fabric person, there is an element in there. So sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt you.
no, you're so right to talk about the feel of it, because one of the reasons I love wearing this is it's so soft on my skin. It just embraces me. It's gorgeous. So when I wore this top with my black velvet trousers, if you can see it, it's got sort of bell sleeves, and I wore it with a big belt.
Metallic gold flowers for people that are listening.
Yes, my mother rang me up and said, "You've really got to stop spending money on designer clothes. It's just not on, you know." And I said, "Mum, there's only one problem with that. It's from Primark, and it cost me £6." So, so this is a joyful thing to wear. You can imagine if that's really pulled tight with a big belt and just black velvet flared pants, very high heels. Wore it on QVC. Love that outfit. Just love it. I'm whizzing through. So now we get to pieces that I would never throw away because I've inherited them or bought them as vintage. I have a picture of my grandmother in the 1920s wearing this at Mardi Gras. It's a fringed shawl, and she wore it over her Mardi Gras dress. And I've got it to this day, and I've kept it. It's Devore velvet, and it's divine.
Yeah, and it's one of those pieces that will never age.
Never. I just want to show you something else. So in that same Mardi Gras, she made velvet flowers, and this is a little piece that went round the wrist. And I've still got it.
A bit like a corsage.
Corsage. So I've kept all of those. But on a more practical level, I inherited some of her underwear, which I now wear as cotton summer tops. This is 100 years old.
Is it really? Wow, Nicola, that's just stunning. And if you look at that, that looks like a lot of the like plain white shirts with the beautiful embroidery anglais that is out now. So again, for those ladies that are listening on the audio, on the podcast element, and not seeing it with the YouTube, it looks just like one of the white shirts that are out in the moment in places like Fat Face and Marks and Spencer's, etc.
Yeah, it does.
But that's underwear, Alison.
It is. It's underwear from the 1920s.
Wow.
And it's really about how it makes me feel, to go back to that word, to wear something that was worn by somebody I love very much. She was a supremely elegant woman and made her own hats, and just to be part of that fashion, her fashion, to be wearing that. So the last piece I want to show you from her is this little Devore, again, it's a crushed velvet bolero jacket in a sort of lemony cream. This she wore on her wedding day in 1920 over her wedding dress, and it's in perfect condition, and I wear it. I wear it over jeans, over a t-shirt. I wear it very differently, but I wear it 100 years later.
But this is where people's wardrobes, yes, we are, you know, you can have that mixture of, you know, traditional, you can have a bit of heritage in there, you can go back to a bit of vintage, you know, and that's why I think, you know, we were saying that, you know, even my mum's wardrobe, I look through and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there is some of the most amazing pieces in here that will just be coming home with me to wear, because they were obviously of much long ago, before she put on a little bit of weight and all that type of thing. But they have so much sentimentality to them, don't they? I mean, you could just see your face when you're talking about, you know, your grandma's jacket, and it's just how clothes make us feel.
Yeah, totally. It's very, very special to have that feeling of connection with somebody when you're wearing. It's like wearing a piece of jewelry that's been given to you, except it's a bigger item. It's an item of clothing. Very quickly, before I finish going through this rail, so this is an example. This is actually a Moschino dress which is 60s in style, but it's not 60s old. It's a new one with this lovely sort of bow. I was in Arundel in Sussex a couple of weekends ago, walked into an antique shop, and this was the thing in front of me on a rail saying vintage clothes. Well, it's not vintage, but somebody had just sort of ditched it. £25 for a Moschino dress.
But you know, they've put that into vintage because of its style.
Yes.
That's why they put that into vintage.
But it was just to own. I mean, I probably, in all honesty, wouldn't go into Moschino and buy it new, because it would be several £100s, and I probably wouldn't feel I could justify it. But to get it, and to get it and feel that it was somebody else's cast off, but it's new. There's so much life left in this. And I just thought, £25? Yes. Why would I not do that? So that's that. And then very quickly, I bought this recently in New York in a thrift store. This is a Nina Ricci. And this was like a 90% less than it would have been when it was new. But this one is probably my favorite, and I'll finish on it. It's a 1950s encrusted ball gown.
Oh,
there
wow.
we go. And I bought this in Lincoln. I was filming a TV show and the heavens opened and the director said, run for cover. So I ran into a vintage clothes shop. Why wouldn't I? Why would I run into Tesco?
Not a supermarket. You ran to the vintage clothes shop.
I did. And I was going through the rails absentmindedly and I saw this and I thought, oh, just divine. Look at the workmanship. Look at all the embossing and the detailing. Anyway, so I put it on. I kid you not, it was made for my body. It was as if that dress was waiting for me. £125 for a full-length 1950s ball gown. You just couldn't get that value else. So I am a girl who loves value. I'm always looking for value. But also the wonderful thought of who wore this?
Yeah.
How many wonderful parties did they go to in this dress? And I wore this recently to a performance at the Royal Opera House. And I said to my girlfriend who I was going with, I said, I bet you 98% of the people walking through those doors are going to be in jeans and trainers. Fair enough. That's absolutely fine. But it's not fine for me. If I go to the opera, I want to dress up. So let's both go in full length ball gowns. So we went to the Royal Opera House in full-length ball gowns, and there's this picture of me she took standing on the terrace, sort of looking like there's something out of Frozen, and everyone around me is in jeans and trainers. But I've just got this look on my face which says, "Cat got the cream."
Yeah. But again, because you felt good, and that goes back to the clothing that. Do you know what we all have to wear that makes us feel comfortable? And it's wonderful, Alison, seeing that rail, because there's so many, every piece you pulled out, there was a story.
Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting. And you think you said about, what you've gained by people moving things out of their wardrobe. And I think, Nicola, that's where obviously you come in, you see what people are kind of moving through, then you get to see the other end of the people that are getting those items, which makes them in turn feel like Alison does when she bought those other items as well.
No, that's true. And we get so much, I mean, obviously we will do all the hard work for you. So a lot of people want to clear out their wardrobes, but think, well, how do I resell these items? I haven't got the time to dedicate to doing that, etc., etc. So people can send us, via free postal service, which obviously you both utilise. That then we will, look through those items and market them and price them and do all of that work. But the positive feedback we get as well, we get some really excellent feedback. People coming back to us saying, "Thank you so much. That was a fabulous dress. I just really love it," and etc., etc. And to hear that is just amazing, just to hear that, because like we said at the beginning, there's life in items beyond your own wardrobe. They have a life for somebody else, and it's just so heartwarming just to hear some of that feedback when people love the items that they've purchased that have been pre-loved by somebody else.
And I think that's it, isn't it? It's about, like Alison was, how we started this conversation with Alison saying about the journey she went on with the weight loss, how it changed your view of clothing as well, Alison, with regards to, getting dressed originally was a bit more of a chore, whereas, you've along the way, it was almost like your subconscious mindset kind of really came back out again, going, wow, do you know what? I can get really excited about these clothes. And you've said it on numerous times on this podcast, you've got your sleeve, your arms out, you've got backless on and things like that. And I think clothes are incredibly powerful. They're so powerful. And I think people forget how powerful they are. You know, I was talking earlier on with somebody else about personal branding, and we were talking about businesses and branding and logos and brand colors and things like that. But where we actually went back to, the start of personal branding is about, you know, when you want to create your own brand, it's personal. So who are you as a person? How do you create the looks that you have when you want to then represent your brand? And it goes right the way back, but it goes back to clothes. Clothes for me, you know, as a stylist, are not just about covering up a body. They're about basically dressing the body, whether it's, you know, curved or whether it's angular or whether it's petite or whether it's a plus size. It doesn't matter. It's about, you know, dressing that shape and making somebody feel good. And absolutely, you know, and that's the way it is. Do you think, Alison, your relationship with clothes now is far better than where it was, you know, a few months ago?
Oh, it's a totally different relationship. I used to use clothes to hide behind, and now I use them as a projection, quite the opposite, out of my personality, as an extension of my brand. And so they are almost now indistinguishable from me, from how I wish to be perceived. We're one and the same because we're in alignment, and I'm happy with the clothes that I wear. And I feel they do reflect my state of mind, which is now very optimistic and you know, having fun, basically. And my clothes are much more fun. And whereas before they just did a sort of practical job of making sure I didn't get arrested for being naked in public, and you know, and not too much more really, other than hiding the bits I didn't like. But it was, you know, it was absolutely the polar opposite of how I now view clothes, which is to show off the bits I love and to project positivity and a newfound energy.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful. And to hear how you've done it is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story, because you've shared the story, but then you've shared how other people can, you know, work with their wardrobe by, you know, taking things out, by recycling, by sustainability. But all along the way, it still boils down to that 4-letter word, that feel. And it's about whether you resell to Nicola, or whether you buy from Nicola, or whether you buy from the high street. It's about how these clothes help us feel confident with a positive mindset. And for me, that's absolutely paramount, especially, you know, if you're in business, or if you're a mum and you're going about your daily, you know, duties with 2 4-year-olds, or, you know, things like that. So I would love to say thank you to both of you for coming today. Alison, you know, thank you so much for sharing what is actually a very personal story, but a very exciting and, you know, really inspirational story that, you know, anyone can do this. We said this, didn't we? It's about empowering ourselves to basically do whatever we want to do so that we can be the best version of ourselves, because life is very, very short. So thank you so much for that. Nicola, thank you so much for coming and sharing as well how you worked with, you know, Alison on this journey, and how your business is kind of really working to help other women as well work through their wardrobe and whatever. I hope everybody has enjoyed listening to this podcast. And for the viewers who have watched it on YouTube, thank you so much. You've got to see some beautiful clothes that belong to Alison as well, and the history behind them. And we will see you all next week. Thank you both, ladies, ever so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye for now.